Joining us now, former HUD Secretary and MSNBC political analyst Julian Castro, and former Republican Congressman from Florida and MSNBC political analyst David Jolly. So, Julian, first to you. It's such a big push in these final days. Let's talk about what you know about Pennsylvania and some of the issues, or any of these key battleground states where you think that things could be different from what we were expecting.
Well, you know, that poll out of Iowa by Ann Seltzer, who, as folks have heard by now, if they didn't know her name already, now know, is the most respected pollster in the nation. Very accurate. If we see the kind of movement, especially for women, for suburban women, for older women, in places like Pennsylvania that she has seen in Iowa, then I think that that's very good news for Kamala Harris. You add that to, of course, the Puerto Rico comments that in the Hispanic community are still reverberating. And what I've heard is that it's not just Puerto Ricans that have been incensed by those comments, but other Latinos. And so we know that there's a sizable...
That's a big population.
Yeah, we know that that's about 4%.
Majority Latino.
That's right. And as Yamiche mentioned, Kamala Harris is visiting one of those communities today in Allentown. There's also Reading and a number of other communities. This is a super close race. And in a super close race like that, where you're dealing with tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 votes of a difference, any of these things could make a difference.
There's new polling out from YouGov and Univision showing 64% of registered Latino voters in Pennsylvania are now backing Harris. Did those comments move the needle, do you believe, David?
Oh, I think so, and not just for the Latino community, which is certainly not monolithic, but you've spoken in previous hours about the female vote in this election and others. I think the last gettable voters down the stretch for the last week and even going into tomorrow is probably someone who voted Republican in the past, maybe a soft Republican, an independent, and so maybe within the Latino community there is a get out the vote effort around the Puerto Rico comments or some of the typical crass comments of Trump and his surrogates, but it translates to all demographics. I mean, part of the resistance to Donald Trump that we've seen over the last 6 to 8 years are people who simply don't like the division. They don't like the caustic nature of the comments. They don't like the misogyny, the racism, and the flirtation with division. And so you don't have to be Latino to say, the comments at Madison Square Gardens were out of line, and I don't want that to be reflected in the next leader of the country. You don't have to be a woman to say, I don't want a country that buries reproductive freedom and insults women with misogyny. Actually, those are broad themes within the country that I think thread together this coalition that is turning towards Vice President Harris down the stretch.
One of the things that surprised me over the last couple of days, Julian, is I've spoken to people who are Puerto Rican either by birth or through family. They all told me that they were getting phone calls from friends saying, "Are you okay?" That they were concerned about them. They thought it would bring up a lot of issues that they didn't need to have brought up in the way that it was brought up. Do you have a sense of how big the tentacles might be? And do you think they're real?
Oh, yeah, I do. I absolutely think that they're real. I think also that, as David was alluding to, there may have been some folks who were on the fence. I mean, I think there is something, too, in the Latino community, this sense of, well, is Trump going to be better for the economy?
Yeah.
If there's one thing that Trump is, we know that he lies a lot. But if he has a superpower, it's marketing. And in every speech, he says, we had the greatest economy ever, right? You say that enough, and it starts to seep in. But what that Puerto Rican comment did by that comedian was, it suddenly, I think it turned more people back to where they were before. They don't want the division. They don't want the chaos. They don't want to feel like this is a guy that's putting people down. And not just, you're right, David, not just for Latinos, but it reminded Americans that didn't support him in 2020 why they got rid of him in the first place 4 years ago. And I think it really hurt the campaign.